Hello, and welcome to Based on Facts, where fiction and superstition meet logic and scientific facts, on WELT 95.7 FM, broadcasting from the Allen County Public Library. My name is Chris Rex, and this week we will be talking about how to go motivate yourself. I came up with this title, which I'm very proud of. I think it's rather clever, just because really this whole phenomenon that's been exploding in the past 2 weeks, essentially, here in the US. Pokemon Go, alright? And for those of you who haven't partaken in Pokemon Go yet, just to give you a brief synopsis of that game, it is a game that has only been out since July 7th, and yet a mere 5 days after it being out, it crushed the record for the most active subscribers to any app ever here in the US. The previous crowning champion here in the US was Candy Crush. You hear about that and how many people were playing that on a regular basis at one point in time. And it annihilated that record in no time. Okay, I don't even know how many people are currently playing Pokemon Go, but Candy Crush's record was 20 million. It hit 21 million subscribers for Pokemon Go July 12th. So 5 days. Just crazy to think about that many people flipping their lids for this one game. But anyway, I guess the general gist of this game is that it tries to get you to go out into the real world and interact. Tries to get you moving, so to speak. And how it does this is it basically sends you on a mission to go out and capture, like 150 different types of Pokemon, okay, which are basically these little cartoon creatures. And during this, you're expected to not only catch these Pokemon, but then also do battles with them. If you catch eggs, try to raise the eggs, incubate the eggs basically, and hatch out these Pokemon. Really just with the goal of trying to get the rarer and rarer breeds of Pokemon as you level up and progress throughout the game. And so it's really, from the basic premise, it at least gives you some sort of motivation to get out there and find these other creatures, because it basically sets these creatures into the real world. So as you're looking at your screen, you can all of a sudden have a Pokemon show up in your close vicinity, and that will basically ping your Pokemon tracker in the game. And if the Pokemon is within 650 feet of you in real life, you can then try to figure out where that Pokemon is, so you can go up to it and capture it with what's called a Pokeball. Okay, which is essentially a sphere-like trap. Okay, and even that's kind of a mini game, as far as trying to get the Pokeball thrown accurately enough to capture that one particular Pokemon. Now, really, it's very interesting. People have been posting some neat pictures to where these little Pokemon that show up on your screen, they show up on top of or nearby objects in the real world, because basically this whole program uses your camera. And it kind of integrates the digital creature into the real life experience, essentially, by looking through your phone. So it's kind of cool. You see some of these neat pictures where people be at a zoo or something, and there's a Pokemon on top of the turtle's head or something, and it's cute. It's once again, it's something that's kind of nice to get people involved, to get them looking at things that they wouldn't normally look at. So that's kind of cool. Additionally, we could talk about some of the Pokestops, they're called. And what those are is that within Pokemon, they've essentially set up certain locations that are very special. Okay? And at these special locations, if you go to visit them in real life while you're playing this game, you can get certain bonuses by going to these, quote, Pokestops. And those bonuses include more Pokeballs, that we have more chances to capture more creatures. You can get things like eggs, as I was mentioning before. Eggs you can basically incubate and grow up and hopefully get a rare kind of a Pokemon there. Or a bunch of other free stuff. And so these Pokestops tend to be circled or centered around areas that are maybe important landmarks, or historical places of interest, monuments, restaurants, stores. They're actually important places, generally speaking. They're not normally just some random place out in the middle of nowhere. They were very tediously, meticulously selected for some value. And it's great because it's been bringing a lot more foot traffic to all these different places. A lot of people weren't even aware of half this stuff until Pokemon Go told them to that, hey, you can go to this location and get some free stuff that might help you, catch more Pokemon or level up your character, your creatures a little more. So it's kind of cool seeing that kind of motivation, so to speak, to try to get people to go out and explore the world around them. And you may be sitting here asking, well, what about walking? I mean, do you just have to drive to all these places? Do you just have to bike to all these places? I mean, it's, what's really the drive to walk? And well, the game itself actually does a decent job of monitoring your speed. Okay, which is to say that if you are traveling too fast, you no longer get credit for walking. You instead just are moving. You don't really get counted for the steps that you take, so to speak. So provided you're walking and that you're moving, or that you're moving slow enough, you'll actually have your steps counted. With that actually will help you be able to hatch the eggs that you have in the incubator right now. So there's a couple different kinds of eggs. The larger the egg, the more rare the Pokemon that you can hatch from it, but also the more steps you need to hatch that particular egg. So I think, for instance, there is 2K, 5K, and 10K eggs, and that's how far you have to walk in order to be able to hatch those eggs. So you can almost think of it as your physical movement is actually helping your digital incubator. So you can hatch these eggs and potentially get some rare Pokemon there. And so that's part of the motivation. That's supposed to be part of the fun, is having that ability to get rewarded for actually going out and walking and exploring. Not only going to various places at these Pokestops, but getting to these various places by walking there. So, kind of cool. I guess I haven't really played Pokemon Go or its predecessor, Ingress, which I guess was around a little while before Pokemon Go. But essentially, from what I hear, Ingress works very similarly to where you also are interacting with the real world, and yet you're working towards certain goals on your own. You're getting credit for walking, you're getting credit for going to special places. So it basically seems like Ingress was essentially taken by the Pokemon creators and reshaped to be Pokemon Go. So they just basically took the Ingress engine and stripped it down and made it Pokemon Go. So kind of fascinating looking at that, because normally when you think about some of these high-end games, especially like Pokemon, you don't think of them just taking something and putting a new face on it and republishing it. They normally do things that are very novel on their own. And although Pokemon Go is novel, it's built on the exact same concept as Ingress. And so you have two different communities now, at least two different communities, that's going around and doing things and trying to integrate a digital world with the real world to some degree. And I look around and I see these places that wouldn't normally be frequented by people. And all of a sudden in the past 2 weeks, there's like 50 to 100 people in some of these locations. And it's all because of Pokemon Go. And that's just crazy to me. A short jaunt from my apartment door. I live in Canterbury Green. Just a short jaunt down the River Greenway here, right up to the IPFW campus. There's a children's garden, memorial garden, I believe, of some kind. That really didn't have maybe as many as 3 people that I ever saw in it the entire time that I've been walking past that thing. Because I've walked past it, on my way to Old Crown or Ivy Tech, or even IPFW itself, and I've walked past that thing countless times, and I've only ever seen maybe 3 people in that memorial garden. Now I walk past it, there's easily 20 people in that entire area, and that's because it's littered with Pokestops right there. That's crazy to me. That's all it takes is a cluster of Pokestops, and you can have just throngs of people being drawn there. I was out there 2 o'clock last night. I allowed my wife to take me out there and show me what all the hubbub is all about, so to speak, and there were literally 60 people in the memorial garden at 2 a.m. That's crazy to think about. That place would be a ghost town otherwise. Just blows my mind. Absolutely crazy. So I guess that kind of gets me to really my overall topic for this particular conversation and episode, as far as motivation. What does it take to get us to do anything, for getting us off our butts and getting us outside and exploring the world around us, and maybe getting some exercise while we do it. It really takes a video game to go to that extreme. That's kind of crazy. But it's just, it really is pretty handy if you have some sort of reward system in place. And I understand that. And if we look at the research here, about 40% of high schoolers in 2003 were chronically disengaged from school and didn't appear to be motivated to get good grades in their classes. 40%. That's 4 out of 10 kids just can't get motivated to care about their grades. That's insane to me. When I was growing up, I was, that was just hammered into my head that I needed to get good grades so that I could then move on to get a good career, when I grew up. And that was really one of the main ways to do that, is by getting good grades. You get good grades in school so you can go on to more schools, so you can get more degrees so you can get more school. It's just like an endless cycle, and but that was motivating. It was. Not did it make me cry for the one time that I had to fail a class? No. In high school or in college. Either one. Failed one class. Didn't slit my wrists, wasn't the end of the world. But you know what? It happens sometimes. It happens. So, getting people to care on a massive scale, it's really important because it's really hard to do. And if it can be solved basically almost overnight with something like this video game, it's just like, wow. We have been kind of ignoring this sleeping giant for a while. A number of people throughout the years have been trying to denigrate and downplay video games, saying that they teach our kids to be violent and result in all these psychological problems for our kids. And what's interesting is that every time that somebody actually does a study looking at those effects, looking for the negative effects of video games, we aren't able to find any correlations there. If anything, we're only able to find positive correlations. We're seeing kids being able to think critically more, have better problem-solving skills, better hand-eye coordination, and even better stress coping mechanisms. Because honestly, it's a little bit of a relief to just sit down and plop on a game and feel like you're actually making a difference in the world. Because unfortunately, in the real world, it's hard to remain optimistic about how much you're changing or not changing the world around you. But in a virtual universe, it's a lot easier. And that's what's so great about things like this. The power of video games is just enormous. And it's great that with technologies like what we have right now with the mobile app development, integrating it with the camera on your phone so that we can digitally put in something into the real world, at least on your screen. That's awesome. Being able to do that is incredible. And then being able to tie that in with GPS technology so your phone knows exactly where you're at all times. And it can tell you, oh, right there, down the corner, a quarter mile away, right there is a Pokestop. So you should go over there, you should check it out, you should get some free stuff, and boom, you'll be better off. And the user gets to sit there and be like, alright, cool, I guess I'll go over there and do that. It's just, this is such an untapped resource. We haven't really focused that much on trying to get people motivated to do what's healthy, but also do it in a way that kind of makes them care about it, right? So the thing with this game is that, some people care so much about this Pokemon stuff. I mean, they've actually resorted to, even though the game's only been out for 2 weeks, they've already tried to resort to selling their phones, selling their game accounts, using real money just to make use of this supply and demand. It's absolutely crazy to think about. So it's just something that blows my mind that we are reaching that stage where we are now starting to realize how powerful video games are. And they are definitely a force to be respected still, even today. And the amounts of gamers over the years have only increased. And if we really had negative effects from games, substantial negative effects from video games, we would see them by now. Now some might make the argument that, well, with video games, maybe comes a more sedentary nature, maybe that's helping cause an increase in obesity. So guess what? Now we can have our cake and eat it too. There are some games that really get you out and moving. Before we had games on like the Xbox, the Kinect, that would get you moving, like dance games or other fitness games and things that would get you moving around and in the living room and things, and that would help you get your points in your game. But now, getting that on a mobile device and actually getting you out of the house, going to that next step of getting you out there, getting you interacting with the world around you, getting you learning about the world around you, learning about your community, interacting with the other members of your community. A lot of people are starting to make friends, meet new people, start dating some of the people that they're meeting at these Pokestops and during their Pokemon adventures. It's really causing a massive network to appear that we never thought possible. As far as having people on massive scale go outside, go to all these attractions, and get some sort of digital credits for it. It's really cool being able to see that. Now, when it comes to trying to motivate ourselves or others, we'll realize that there's actually two different sources of motivation. Now, one of it is what we've been kind of talking about here, that extrinsic source that comes from a source that's not ourselves. Okay, so having that mobile app try to get us to go outside on our own free will is great. It's a motivating factor that we are not, that's not coming from us, so to speak. So that's the other side of the coin, is that we have to take into account our intrinsic motivating factors and how we can kind of tie that into this extrinsic source with these mobile apps. Because really what we want to do is, over time, we want to try to kind of exercise that muscle that is our inner source of motivation. A lot of things that we do here in daily life really come down to exercising and practice, so to speak. And so it's kind of hard for you to be self-sufficient or self-motivated if you never practice those skills. And so that's part of what's great about having all these extrinsic factors in play, right? So having a friend or a family member motivate you, help keep you motivated, make you optimistic about a certain goal, that's great. When I'm trying to go to Guam to live out my dream of working with brown tree snakes there, managing those populations, I have friends and family encouraging me, and that's great. It's just that even with that, I have my own motivation because I really, really, really want to do it. Really want to go there. And so every single time I have that job opening appear, I apply for it. And, over the past couple years, I've been getting farther and farther in the interview process. And this time, I think there were maybe 6 candidates, and I was one of the final 6. And there were probably easily 100 people that applied for that position. So I feel really great about that. Like, hey, awesome! I made it to 1 out of 6. I got the phone interview, got to put my best self forward. But you know what? I did that. Okay. Having other people help motivate me is great, but it was really me who's kind of trying to put this whole job together in motion. And that's just because I've been practicing that. I've been using input from other people as a crutch to help build up my own intrinsic source of motivation. And I'm hoping that people are kind of taking this whole Pokemon Go experience from the same perspective that I'm viewing it. If it's a tool to help get you out and active, being outside, walking around, that's great, But I don't want it to be a wheelchair that people use to get around, use as an explicit reason to get around. I would rather it be, a crutch or a brace that's temporary, that's helping them achieve this outdoor activity, but it's not going to cripple them if you take it away. Okay, because people are on crutches for a while as their bones or muscles or tendons are healing or whatever, but they eventually come off the crutches. Okay, and I really hope that a lot of people are treating this whole Pokemon Go experience in the same way, because having that kind of motivation, that internal drive to get out, to move around, to explore your community, to meet other people in your community. I'm really hoping those things are more permanently instilled as values in people as they, as this whole Pokemon Go trend starts to disappear. Because like all things, I mean, it will dissipate and disappear into the void. But it's going to take some significant amount of time. There's too many millions of people that love playing this game to just drop it and let it go. So yeah, they don't want to let go of Pokemon Go, right? But yeah, so I guess that's really my thing, is that when I look at my life and some of the crutches I've used, I've been in situations that have required, a friend to help guide me through the experience. Whether it's just something simple like, "Hey Chris, you should come out to the bar with us." I'm like, kind of busy. They're like, "Come on, it'll be fun." I'm like, "Alright, I'll come out." Stop being an antisocial person locked up in my room like a dungeon. Sigh. So there's that. Or even something a little bit more complex, like, me sitting there and not wanting to go out and socialize, kind of falling back to my native state that I was born into, which is more antisocial, isolationist, and can be lured by the notion of alcohol. Maybe take a shot or two, and then all of a sudden gain the motivation and drive that I really need to be able to follow through with that event, whether it's going out to a bar or hanging out with people, whatever. But every time I use those crutches, I'm actually exercising my intrinsic factors and motivators as well. And so I really do try to do that myself and make sure that I'm not just using those crutches permanently, that I can get off the crutches at some point, because that's really my goal. I feel like I make a little bit of progress every year in becoming a little bit more and more outgoing, more of an extrovert every year. But it's work. It really is effort. Now, there is some things about this whole experience of getting outside, getting fresh air and things. There are definitely some real benefits to this whole Pokemon Go thing and helping motivate people to go outside. Now, obviously, we can talk about just basic activity level, right? So a lot of these people would just be sitting at home on the couch, on their computer chair, whatever, and I don't know, watching TV or messing around on their phones or laptops. And that's where they would be. They would be sitting the whole time. And one thing that we've actually seen with sitting for long periods of time is that this kind of sedentary lifestyle is highly associated with higher rates of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. And so having so many millions of people get out and start moving around, having many times, in some cases about 10 times more active minutes that they're moving around every single day, that's great. That is excellent. That's really going to help lead to a healthier populace, just because everybody's moving around. Because once you get later on in life, if you start getting obese, and you start not moving around much, you run into the problems of blood pooling in various places of your body, most notably your legs, with blood pooling in places and just sitting there, that's where you can start running into problems of blood clots forming in those areas. What can happen is that those blood clots can dislodge from like your legs and make it up to your heart. And boom, you all of a sudden have a coronary artery blocked off in the heart, you have some heart muscle damage, and you basically have a heart attack. As certain parts of the heart die because they're not getting the oxygen they need. And that's not good. Not good at all. So it's great that we can help, alleviate some of those symptoms. Additionally, what we can look at is we can just look at the other things that are kind of associated with that. If we're moving around more, we're using more calories. So just by being more active, we're not only preventing blood from becoming stagnant and causing clots and things, but we're also looking at higher energy expenditures every day, more calories being used, which results in less obesity or less overweight people. And that'll definitely, like I said, reduce your rates of getting diabetes or heart disease later on in life. And just getting up and walking around more, that will work your heart more. So actually you're making your heart stronger by doing that. So it's like just so many different things that are playing into this to really just make you a more fit individual. And that's exciting to me. I love seeing that kind of downstream effect because so many things tie into this. And it really all comes down to your personal health. And it's just great to see all these people doing this. Now, whether they are consciously aware of the full implications of their moving around, I don't know. Probably not, at least in some cases. But, really all they're thinking about is catching that next Pokemon, getting to that next Pokestop. And, that's great. It's just really, I'm looking at the wider health implications for the general populace. Because the healthier that we can make one individual, that will help make other individuals healthier as well. Just because of that snowball effect. And if people are walking around having a great time, hanging out with a bunch of friends, going to these Pokestops and stuff, then you can have a huge community drive there. And so we can have not only personal health benefits, but we can have social benefits. Just because you get to hang out with people that are doing the same thing that you are, you can become a part of different clans or like groups of people and do battles and take over various locations in the real world. We have the Pokestops, but we also have some places that are called are what they call gyms. All right, and gyms can basically be conquered and owned by various clans or groups of people, and that's essentially just one of those ways that we can try to get even more sense of community is by having these groups in the digital universe where you can actually meet up in person. You can have an entire clan meet up in person, discuss how to go about their game plan, and go out and do what they need to do. To whether they're trying to conquer a gym or do whatever. So it's a great way to network. Really is. It's just awesome seeing so many people come together for that one purpose. Just to have fun, really. It's great. Because normally you would only see that kind of community on like an MMORPG, okay, which is, say, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. Like World of Warcraft, for instance. Massive amounts of people come together online and do the exact same types of things. They have clans, they have groups of people that come together to form gaming parties, and they just go around and they just conquer and do quests and things, whatever they can do together. But they never do that. I shouldn't say they never. They very rarely do that in person. Okay, they're very rarely looking at people as they're gaming at the same time. So that's the great thing about this, is that it really does bring people together, not only in the digital universe, but in the physical universe as well. And so, it tries to bring that poor college student out of his mother's basement during the summer and into the light to help remind him there is still a world out here. So that's great. I love seeing that. Additionally, what we've seen is that we can tie in this whole motivating us to walk around, to get those step counters and everything. We can see ways of integrating that with other apps. Okay, I was just informed of this one app called Rescue Walk. Alright, and in that app, you can download it to your phone, and every step that you take helps earn money towards whatever wildlife type charity you have on there. So, like one that I am giving money to, so to speak, is Black Pine Animal Sanctuary. And that's actually in the town that I graduated high school from, Albion. And Black Pine is a great place. It's a wonderful place. It's a rescue where they bring in these monkeys and these tigers, birds, reptiles. They bring in these animals, and those animals are there for the rest of their lives. And it's such a cute little zoo/park thing, because they take very, very good care of their animals. They're in wonderful enclosures, and because of their small size, man, you can get right up to some of those animals. I mean, like some of them you can downright reach out and touch, which is just crazy to think about. You would never see that kind of intimate interaction at a zoo. But another thing is that because they take in animals in the way that they do, you have a lot higher chance of getting what they call more wild animals. Which is to say, you're not just looking at an animal that's been perpetually in a zoo its entire life. It's very tame. Really doesn't care about people much. Just kind of ignores them. Okay, these animals, for the most part, tend to be very wild. Okay, still have a lot of their wild instincts. Still have a lot of their wild drive. Okay, and that is to say, if you get in the cage with them, you have a pretty good chance that you're not coming out. Okay. So very, very, very dangerous being near these animals. But that's part of the cool part of this park, this animal sanctuary, is that it has such an intimate level of interaction between you and the animal. It's just phenomenal. So, I'm donating my steps that I take through this app, this Rescue Walk app. Every step that I take, it helps earn credits that basically funnels money to this charity for Black Pine Animal Sanctuary. So that's great. I love that. And we're kind of integrating two different things. You can be sitting here doing walks to hatch your eggs in the Pokemon Go, and simultaneously your steps will be counting towards a charity. And that's great. I love that. Love seeing people get so involved with this, that we can start devoting our resources to areas that really kind of need our help. Because Black Pine, I mean, it's out in a small town out in the middle of nowhere. Albion, it has a Dairy Queen and a stoplight, and like 2 gas stations, and that's just about it. Aside from the high school and middle school there. So that's really about it. So it's really not a place that drives a lot of customer base over to Black Pine. So in some ways they really struggle. And so I feel that if I can donate even a couple bucks to them just by walking around, well, heck, I'm going to do it. Doesn't cost me anything. All I have to do is download the app, create an account, figure out which charity I want to donate to, and boom, it's in place. Costs me nothing. So it's great seeing all these technologies start to kind of integrate together, to where you can be doing something for yourself. You can be leveling up your Pokemon, and you can be helping Black Pine get that new wolf enclosure that they've been wanting to build. That's awesome. I just think that's cool. Now, all this great stuff, kind of working up Pokemon Go, we have to talk about the downsides. Okay, as with everything in the world, you cannot have the good without the bad. Pokemon Go is no exception. Okay. Now, obviously, I already mentioned one of the potential disadvantages before. People could be treating this whole Pokemon Go thing as too much of a crutch, using it as their only excuse to get out of the house and walk around and explore and meet new people, and that's bad. We don't want that. Okay. We don't want this Pokemon Go phenomenon to die out and then see everybody just go back to what they were doing before. Just lazing around the house, not really getting out and moving much or doing anything beyond that. What I would like to see is people actually become more active in general and to carry out that lifestyle through every facet of their life, for the rest of their life, basically. I'm hoping that we see that. So we'll just have to wait and see what the downstream effects of this whole movement is in the long run. But I'm really concerned about people using it as a wheelchair, as a permanent kind of crutch. So I don't know. We'll see. Other than that, we can talk about some of what I've seen personally, and that is where people are walking around with their headphones in, connected to their phone, walking around on a sidewalk, just staring down at their phone the entire time. That's dangerous. Okay. You're basically limiting your entire perspective on the real world, and making yourself vulnerable to what's going on around you. Your awareness is cut to just about nil. Okay? Just that little bit of peripheral vision that you have around your phone. That's dangerous. What's even more dangerous is taking that a step further, and what I've seen is people just kind of walking across roads, even in the middle of the night, with no reflective gear on, so to speak. Some cases they wear all black, and they're just kind of nonchalantly walking across roads. When you're walking across the road and you're not paying the most attention to what's on the road, that's a recipe for disaster. Okay, and I would not be surprised if in the coming months of this Pokemon Go being out, that we see a lot more deaths, accidental deaths, while playing this game. As such, I haven't really heard about any yet, but I have heard of a murder actually associated with this. Just kind of curious. I didn't expect that to be to happen so soon. But apparently there's this 18-year-old Guatemalan kid who actually had a couple people track him down using the GPS, tracking software on Pokemon Go. These people tracked him down and shot him while he was playing the game. And actually his friend, who was also playing the game and was with him, also got shot just in the foot. So he survived, but the 18-year-old ended up dying. And that's where we can start to see another danger with this Pokemon Go, just because of how GPS oriented it is and how accurate that GPS software is, that if it's done right, you can honestly track people down to exactly where they're at and use it against them if you're planning an ambush, if you're planning to hurt them in any way, shape, or form. And so we're having more and more incidences pop up maybe not necessarily quite so extreme and critical like the one I just mentioned, but we are definitely having more. We're going to see only an increase in the number of these bad accidents or incidences happening over time. And I really just hope that people, try to maintain somewhat of a level head. Try to remain aware of your surroundings. If you're going to go out at night, definitely try not to go out alone. That always helps. Having a buddy always helps. The buddy system is a great thing. Especially if you're a female. Not to be sexist, it's just females walking alone at night, especially around college campuses. I mean, it's starting to border on the level of dangerous, just because of how many rapes happen to lone girls walking around at night around college campuses. Especially when people can clearly tell what you're playing. It's kind of obvious when you're playing Pokemon Go. Kind of obvious that you're playing the game. And if you're just a lone girl walking around at night with your headphones in and you're playing this game, your awareness is so minimal that even if somebody was to come up to you and harm you in some way, your chances of being able to defend yourself or identify the perpetrator are pretty slim. Okay, and so I really just encourage caution when it comes to these things. Once again, if you can, travel with a buddy. If not, make sure to arm yourself, whether with mace or knife or gun, whatever you need to defend yourself, because we're having more people get mugged, get beat up while doing these sorts of activities, and those incidences are only going to increase. And especially as people realize that they can so easily prey upon people that are going out and playing these games. So it'd be great to help spread the word. Safety first. It's great that you're playing the game. It's great that you're getting out and interacting with people. Just don't go running across the road after that Pokemon, right in front of a car. Don't do that. Okay, I've seen kids do it. I'm just cringing, just waiting for the squeal of those tires and for those kids to get hit. I not to say that I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's just I'm cringing because it's going to happen, and I don't want anybody to get hurt while doing this stuff, because the overall picture is great. Getting people out, getting people moving is great. It's just when you absorb yourself entirely in digital stuff, that's where you open yourself up to danger. And so I would just really stress that point. Just make sure to do it safely and responsibly. Because honestly, you can get really hurt doing these sorts of things. So yeah, I guess that was really kind of what I was going for. Just kind of wanted to talk about motivation a little bit. And, I'm still struggling with my motivation. I'm not very motivated to play Pokemon Go. I think part of that is the fact that I don't feel I have any time to do the things I need to be doing, much less things I want to be doing. So, for instance, today, I'm getting an hour of sleep right before class, so that's not necessarily the most ideal situation for me, to get 1 hour of sleep before going in to teach a class. But if I had more time, I might be motivated to download Pokemon Go and get out and move around more, because I definitely need to exercise more. I know that's one of the things I struggle with, trying to motivate myself to exercise and get around and lose, good 40 pounds. That's kind of my goal. And it's just, it's hard to get motivated sometimes when you don't have enough time to sleep. because you kind of need sleep to exercise and recover your muscles from exercise. But I don't know. Guess that's just kind of me making up excuses. So, but my wife does it. She's really enjoying it. She's having a lot of fun with the Pokemon Go thing. She's getting more motivated to go around and move, get in better shape. So that's great for her. But like I said, a number of other people are doing that too, and that's excellent. It's just I'm probably never going to reach the point where I have the time to devote to Pokemon Go. So I think in this particular instance, I'm just going to be left behind in the dust when it comes to this fad or movement or whatever you want to call it. So I think I'll stick to my my other motivational factors I have in my life. Most notably my self-driven motivation. And maybe even some of my crutches too, relying on my friends and my family, and maybe just a beer or two to help motivate me along the way as well. So, I feel like I can get by without Pokemon Go. I'm alright with that. I've come to terms with that. I did play Pokemon a little bit many years ago. It was on the Nintendo. But I haven't really played it since then, so guess I've just kind of moved on to other things, I guess. But I guess the most exposure I really have to Pokemon is playing Super Smash Brothers on any Nintendo console, because those games are always awesome. They have so many famous Nintendo characters coming together in one game, and you're just able to get together and just beat the crap out of each other. That's just awesome to me. Love that. So that's really how I keep my regular Pokemon exposure going. Just when I can beat the crap out of them with other Nintendo characters. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'll be fine without Pokemon Go. But you know what? If you're interested in it, you can certainly download it and check it out for yourself, and see if it's for you. I'm not saying anything bad against it per se. I just would like to encourage caution and responsible gaming, so to speak, when using it. So if you are one of those people that end up playing it on a regular basis, just keep those sorts of things in mind if you could. Other than that, I'm going to look forward to a game that I will be more interested in than Pokemon. If they come out with a new Ingress-based game that is a little different, maybe a little bit more integrated, a little bit more, I hate to say this, a little bit more adult, maybe not quite so cartoony, because Pokemon is really kind of cartoony based. It's kind of based on Japanese anime stuff, and so it's definitely got a little bit of a niche of its own. And I feel like maybe if there was another game that was kind of similar, that just had maybe a little bit more of a grown-up or adult feel to it, I feel like then I might be more encouraged to actually go through with downloading it and playing it on a regular basis. If we had like a Lord of the Rings Go kind of app, and you could go to various points in your town and fight a bunch of orcs and push back the forces of Sauron and help keep Middle-earth safe from the orc hordes. Well, maybe I'd be interested in that. That might be kind of cool. But once again, that would be I would have to free up some of my time to be able to do that. But I really think this is kind of the tip of the iceberg, just showing that we can motivate people with these games in a very interactive way. And if we can just push out a game that's like Pokemon Go, but a little bit more tailored to you and your individual tastes, I feel like we'll be able to get everybody out and moving. Because I'll tell you right now, not everybody is going to be motivated by Pokemon. Number of people don't care about Pokemon at all. Okay? And I'm kind of on the fence about that. But if they have these other apps, take and learn the lessons from Pokemon Go, and apply that in new apps that will come out and make the games much more diverse, and even more interactive, then I could really see a whole Go community that's really getting out there and interacting with the environment around them, and actually taking some sort of take-home message, or learning to respect the community that they're in, and getting to know the people in their community. So I think that would be really cool, just to see the further development, and see where this whole trend goes. That this could literally take us to new heights that we never would have thought possible, as far as trying to encourage personal health and well-being and social networking. Because really, a lot of places, bars and the like, they've been kind of suffering in recent years, just because people aren't going out as much to meet new people. They're resorting to Facebook or Tinder or whatever. They're resorting to those means to meet new people, to communicate with people. And so they're really not just willy-nilly going out to a bar and trying to meet somebody. They're trying to make arrangements beforehand to maybe go out and meet at a restaurant. Okay, they're really not going out to bars all that much. But now that so many bars are Pokestops or gyms or whatever, well, now all of a sudden you have a reason to go out again. So that's cool. That's awesome. So people in places are starting to find higher levels of traffic just due to these different technologies, because it's getting people out. So that's awesome. Love that. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens, and hopefully it makes for a brighter future for all of us. So thank you for joining me on this episode of Based on Facts. My name is Chris Rex. If you're interested in finding any of our episodes online, you can do a simple search on Facebook or on YouTube for Based on Facts. All of our episodes are posted there. So thank you so much for listening, and have a great one.